Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news out of the U.S., where the latest act of political violence has turned fatal. Charlie Kirk, a high-profile conservative activist, is dead after he was shot at an event this afternoon. CTV's Stephen Keys joins us now with the latest developments. Steph.
Patricia, Kirk was an avid supporter of U.S. President Donald Trump, and tonight his killing is drawing condemnation from both Democratic and Republican lawmakers. Kirk was speaking at a university in Utah when a single shot rang out. He was struck in the neck and later pronounced dead in hospital. The U.S. president, one of the first, if not the first, to break the news on social media. The search for the suspect is still underway this hour. One person was taken into custody, but we have since learned that person is not a suspect. Witnesses who were at the event are starting publicly to describe what happened, and we want to warn you, some of the details are disturbing.
You just hear the gunshot and I'm sorry, you just see his neck just like open up and there's just like so much blood that just came out. It was horrible. And all I felt was like everybody bringing me down to the ground. And I was, sorry.
Take your time, you're okay.
All I hear is screaming and I see people running and I'm like, it's not safe to run. It's not safe to get up. It's not.
All of a sudden, in a second later, I heard a gunshot and everybody started like running in like a mob through the doors and like, it was scary.
Now, Kirk is less familiar on this side of the border, but he is widely recognized for his role in right-wing politics in the United States. He's the co-founder of a conservative youth organization. Trump has previously praised him and said he was a critical part in his gains among young voters in last year's election. And some have even credited him for being the driving force behind getting J.D. Vance considered for VP. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump writing, quote, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me. And now he is no longer with us." Former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi also posting the horrific shooting today at Utah Valley University is reprehensible. Political violence has absolutely no place in our nation. And here in Canada, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre writing on social media, "We must all strongly denounce the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Political violence is never justified. The attacker must be brought to justice and free speech must be upheld." At last check, no statements from the Prime Minister yet, who is in Edmonton for a National Caucus meeting right now. But south of the border, the deadly violence is being condemned by all political stripes. American politics have been extremely volatile. This is just the latest in a string of attacks against politicians. Trump himself was shot during last year's election campaign. Melissa Hortman, the Democratic leader in the Minnesota State House, was shot and killed in her home earlier in the summer. And in 2022, Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked with a hammer in their home.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't even know what to say at this point. I mean, Charlie Kirk shot dead at the age of 31 while he was on stage, by the way, and while he was having a good debate. You see, here's the problem. People have to understand and learn. I don't know how long this is going to take and how and why it got to this level and how it got this bad. When are people going to understand that it's okay to disagree? You can agree to disagree in this world. And I know that a lot of people obviously didn't like a lot of the things that Charlie Kirk believed or some of the things that he was saying. Did you really have to unalive him for that? I mean, seriously, this is insane. And you know that all of these things now, whenever they happen, they're always caught on camera. And ladies and gentlemen, I have seen some of the footage for this. Do not watch it if you have not seen it. I would not recommend. It's gruesome. It's horrifying. It's bad. I repeat, if you have not seen the video of this on social media yet, I would recommend that you do not watch it. Just know that it was bad and that's it. But it really is sad though, because I didn't necessarily agree with all the things that he had to say either, but I still did like to see his debates. I like to see when he was going up against a group of people, whether he's at a school, whatever setting he was in, because the point is that he makes you think. And whatever they're debating about, crime, race, transgender, gay, church, whatever the case may be, anything that he was talking about, he would make you think, because he would challenge pretty much everything that you would ask him, especially when he's going up against, obviously, he only went up against liberal crowds and really kids at school. But it's really sad, man, because the man had a wife, he had 2 young children. Now they're going to obviously have to grow up without him. And I'm sure whoever this suspect is, since this act of violence, it probably would have to do with something in regards to politics. And I mean, the devastation for his family and his supporters, people who knew him, I can't even imagine what they're going to have to deal with right now, especially what they have seen in regards to the footage. Absolutely terrible. And I'm seeing an outpour of support from people on both sides, whether on the left or on the right, because at some point you have to admit, like, America is really in trouble at this point. America is really in trouble. And it's not just America, it's other Western countries around the world. But you always know that America is at the forefront, right? They're the ones who are always in your face. It's always bigger when it happens in America. And because of the following that he had and just how big that Charlie Kirk was, you know that this isn't going to be going away anytime soon. And at this point, I don't know how you fix this in America. I'm not sure this is 100% fixable at this point. And like I mentioned, whether you liked him or not, he had a message that he was putting out there. Heavy right wing, which we know, promoted conservative principles. And, he was a old school type mentality thinker. But he also gave a platform to some young Black conservatives at the same time, whether you liked it or not. And, he advocated for strong families and strong family values. It's sad, man, because like I mentioned, debating is like a lost art. And we saw that from him and we see it from others, but he did it really, really well. And it's sad to see that a guy who was only 31 years old, not even close to making it into his prime of what he could have been, is extremely, extremely sad. And some people are probably going to watch this and be like, Mike, why are you talking about Charlie Kirk like he, what he would say about Black people and this, that, and the other? Charlie Kirk was saying a lot of stuff based on numbers and what you saw in regards to, factual data statistics and all that kind of stuff, even though they could be skewed from time to time. And there's reasons the numbers, what they are. It's a tough situation. It's a really tough, sad situation. And in America, like I mentioned before, I really don't know how you solve this. This has been happening for God knows how long in America. If you have a really strong voice and you put out a message and you're unapologetic about it, you seem like you get unalived regardless of what color you are. That's just the situation. And the thing about this is when you see something like this happen, it puts fear into others when they're doing something like this. And so I don't know how many more people are going to want to do events and live events like this outdoors. It's more controllable when you're indoors because you can only be so far away and you can have a bunch of different places covered. But outside is like limitless range. And apparently this guy was shot from, Charlie Kirk was shot from 200 feet away. So it says right now, there's still a lot of information that has to come out about this, but it's sad. It really, really is. And like I mentioned, you may not necessarily agree with everything he has to say, but if it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before. Even a guy like Ben Shapiro, similar in some ways to Charlie Kirk, but in the way that he speaks. But he was on the Breakfast Club. And to me, it was a very good conversation. Both sides obviously don't agree with a lot of what each other had to say, but I was glad that they actually had him on the show and they were willing to have conversations about tough subjects, right? And things that involve race at the end of the day. Like, if you don't talk about things, how is anything supposed to improve? Because when these conversations happen and people get to watch and see different perspectives on both sides, the audience wins here, folks. The audience wins. This is not going to help anything. This just makes everything worse. Because he's a guy who spoke to black, white, gay, straight, poor, rich, doesn't matter. It was about having a well thought out argument from different vantage points and then going head to head and debating and seeing what you can figure out. And now, I mean, at 31 years old, here is Charlie Kirk, rest in peace. It's a sad situation, man. I don't care what anyone has to say in regards to, oh, he was this and he was that. Dude, these are conversations, man. These are debates. And that's what I keep going back to. Everybody was a winner getting these debates and having these conversations, speaking about controversial topics. And now at 31, you don't get that anymore from Charlie Kirk. So, you know what? Rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children. Very, very sad. And this isn't the way, man. This is not the way. This isn't good for any side or anyone. I think having debates are something that we need to do more around the world, especially when you don't agree with each other, because maybe there might be some mutual ground in there somewhere, and then at least you can have respect for each other at the end of the day, even though you don't agree, like I mentioned before. But this is awful, man. This is awful. So rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. It's a very sad situation, man. And I guess we'll see what kind of details that comes out over time. I know they have a person of interest in custody right now, because before they were also showing a guy, older gentleman, who it looks like he was the shooter and they're arresting him, but I don't think that is actually the case. I don't think that's the actual person that they were looking for. There's going to be a bunch of news that's going to be coming out, I'm sure, hour after hour after this point, because this is a massive story. So I'll bring you an update at some point, but this is really tragic, folks. This is the Mike Roach Podcast, and I'm out.